I want to share with you why investors are flocking to Atlanta and buying cash flow properties for great income and growth potential. If you're not familiar with what we do as a company, we're essentially a full investment cycle real estate solution. Now, what that means in simple terms is we buy properties at drastic discounts, we'll get them freshly renovated for you. We have local property management in place to screen tenants, maintain the property on your behalf from your remote location, and collect the rents. And then what we also have in place that's a little bit unique is all of our properties are leased with an option to purchase. So we have built-in exit strategies, and if the tenants don't purchase via their option to buy, then we can also help you with the resale down the road when property values rebound. So I'm actually going to show you some of the properties that we're in just to give you a sampling of the quality of the houses and why we're in certain neighborhoods. But before we get to that micro level, let's look at it from a big picture view and why we're in Atlanta and why we've had such a great response rate from investors, again, looking for great growth markets. Now, if you've never been to Atlanta or you're not familiar with the city, it is the travel and the business hub of the Southeast United States. I think Mark Vintner from Wachovia, now Wells Fargo, probably said it best or most succinct, that if the Southeast United States was its own country, so let's take everything east of the Mississippi and say south of Virginia, pulled that quadrant of the United States off, almost like they tried to do back in the 1860s, right? But if that was its own country, Atlanta would be the Tokyo of that country, if you will. It would be the fourth largest economy in the world, just that quadrant of the United States, and Atlanta would be the center of that country. Now, what's most impressive about the Atlanta market is its historic growth patterns and its projected growth. If you're looking to buy in a market where people are moving to, Atlanta is one of the best markets in the country. Now, I know you can't see very clearly what's on your screen, but you can go to Census Bureau and validate this information, or you can go to proximity1.com and pull this very chart. But what you'll find is that from 2000 to 2010, Atlanta grew at a rate of 24%. They went from a population of 4.5 million to about 5.5 million in the greater Atlanta market. Over the next 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, the projected population growth is just over 19%. In contrast, major MSAs in the United States grew at about 9% over the last 10 years, and that's about the same rate they're projected to grow over the next 10 years. Now, as far as industry goes, Atlanta has a wide economic base. It's not reliant on one particular sector or just a handful of companies to support its economy. Of all the Fortune 500 companies, 75% of them have a presence in Atlanta, and a lot of the brands you recognize, the big brands, actually call Atlanta its home. That's where they're headquartered. Atlanta is just a very attractive place for individuals and companies alike. We have a hub or an airport that's within a 2-hour flight of 80% of the population in the United States. The tax burden, when you consider sales tax, property tax, and income tax, is the sixth lowest in the United States. If you're looking for a very comfortable climate to live in, you have all 4 distinct seasons, but they're very mild and comfortable with an average temperature of about 72 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year. And what's most attractive is you get a lot for your money. The cost of living is 6% below the national average, yet for educated workers, the median income is 13% higher than the national average. So if you're providing for your family or you're on a fixed income and you're part of the 80 million baby boomers that are moving to warmer climates, Atlanta's in front of that market. But here's what's most attractive for our landlords. The eviction process is very easy. 4 to 6 weeks to get a non-paying tenant out of your house. And that's what we appreciate most being in the property management business. Georgia's not one of those liberal states that takes 6 months to get someone out of your house. So your turnover costs for non-paying tenants are going to be very minimal. If you want to take a very safe and sound approach to investing, then we want to buy in an affordable market. Affordability can be measured a couple different ways. Number one is what are the purchase price of the homes or the median home prices in that market compared to what the median incomes are. At the end of the day, if the median incomes are very high relative to the purchase prices, then there will be a lot of buyers in the future that can pay more for the house than you paid for it, because ultimately the price ceiling is going to be established by what people can afford. The second way to measure affordability and the potential for someone to pay a lot more for your house than you paid in the future is to compare what the rent payments are on the house to what the mortgage payment would be on the same exact house. If someone's paying you $1,000 a month in rent on something that you paid $80,000 for, that person could justify paying $150,000 for the same exact house because their mortgage payment on that property would still be lower than what their rent payment is. According to this measure, Fortune magazine ranks Atlanta, Georgia as the #1 most affordable market in the United States. So if you want to buy a lot of house for the money with very high cash flows relative to your purchase price, and you want huge upside potential down the road, then buy in markets where the median incomes are relatively high compared to the purchase price and where you have high rents relative to purchase price. Now, while we're talking about affordability, if you're curious to know what you can afford, feel free to request one of our free strategy sessions. Our strategy sessions are just intimate, casual conversations we'll have with you, and if we determine that there's a good fit between what you're looking for and the solutions we can provide, then we'd be happy to send you a sampling of available properties. Now let's talk about a couple different metrics that show us that we're buying at the right place at the right time. When we know that the property values are past the bottom, meaning there's already an upturn in the purchase prices because we're seeing absorption rates and supply decrease. There are geographic pockets of Atlanta and product types and price tiers where we're seeing a lot more competitive buying and less inventory to buy. This evidences that we're buying at the right time because the prices are starting to go back up and we've seen the bottom. We're finding the best yields or the most optimal yields with low headache and low stress around the $70,000 to $110,000 price range. If we go lower than that price range, we're going to find more sketchy areas, higher crime rates, worse schools. But you can find really nice properties, brand new properties that were built just 5, 6, 7 years ago that yield on paper anywhere from a 15 to 18% return. And that can be really attractive. The problem is you don't want to get in a situation where you have a temporary paper return of 15 to 18%. You get into the house, 6, 7 months goes by, the tenants leave, the place is destroyed, you've got high turnover costs and another vacancy to deal with, and then net return, if you're going to land around 9, 10, 11%, why not let's just play in that price range, have a lot less stress, we're not managing managers, and we have more of a positive investment experience. On the other end of that spectrum, if we go high into the 100s or even the 200s, the rents don't climb as proportionate as those prices do. So we start to see the net yields drop, even though we're in nicer neighborhoods. So we found the sweet spot between the $70,000 to $110,000 price range. That's where we get the best profit, the highest yields for the least amount of stress. Let's talk about the component of the full cycle investment solution that I had referenced before that makes this very easy for a remote investor, someone like you who's investing maybe in another state of the country or a foreign investor from another country altogether. This is what makes it easy for you to own and carry and profit from real estate in the U.S. It's our property management. We're pretty proud of some of the creative things that we do inside of our company that, number one, place tenants very quickly, put quality tenants in the property that have an ownership mindset so they take care of your house. And a couple of things we do just to give you an added layer of peace of mind. To start, we offer an eviction guarantee. Now, this is what holds us accountable as property managers to put a good tenant in your property. If we have to evict the tenant for non-payment of rent, that is a cost that we will assume as the property manager. And that's unique. You don't find that too many property managers. Number two, we're not going to rent the house to anyone who doesn't want to commit to that community, that neighborhood, for at least 3 years. And that'll drastically reduce your turnover costs because in most cases, leases are only 12 months long. And then to build in a long-term exit for you, at the end of the 3-year lease, we want tenants who will commit to that house to the extent that they are willing to give us anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 when they sign their lease for the option to buy the house from you, the investor, for at least 50% more than you paid for the property. All of our properties are renovated to a very high-end standard. We do this and spend the extra money because we know it pays off in the long term. It's easier to place tenants and we get a higher quality tenant in the property. And our owners can rest easy their first 12 months of ownership because we stand behind our work with a 1-year home warranty. You're not going to have any major expenses due to maintenance surprises in your first year. Okay, so now we are at the part of the overview that you've probably been patiently waiting for. You want to see some of the houses, right? Well, I'm going to show you a sampling of 3 of our properties that represent our price ranges on the low end, medium, and high side. So 70s on up to the low 100s. 2 of these homes are already sold. 1 of them is available as of the time of this recording, but all 3 of them have already been rented. All 3 of these properties have been freshly renovated, and they have brand new 3-year leases in place. And as you'll see here, each one of those tenants have paid for the option to buy the house at a much higher price than our investor price. Now you're going to see 2 themes among all of these properties. Number 1 is your price is half the cost of the replacement value. So when we get to our insurance policies, we're going to see a replacement value on there that's about $90 per square foot. That's what it costs to replace the house in case of a catastrophic loss. Our prices for our investors is about $45 to $55 a square foot. So between that discount and the fact that the rents are so high relative to the purchase prices, we're putting ourselves in position for a great growth potential. And we're waiting for 2 things to happen for us to hit critical mass. Number 1 is inventory absorption. Obviously, builders can't compete at that price per square foot. So as time goes on and houses are sold, at some point in the future, your house is going to be some of the newer houses that are available. Secondly, if you're in tune with what's happening with our economy, the Federal Reserve is running out of bullets to prop our economy up. So there's increasing pressure for lenders to stimulate the economy through loosening lending restrictions. As we see that happening, these homes are right in front of the path of our FHA financing or first-time home buyer financing, and we're going to see renters buying houses and justifying much higher purchase prices because their mortgage payments are still going to be lower than what they were paying in rent. So let's get into this house. I know you probably read all these numbers while I was blabbing, but this house here is $74,000 purchase price. The option price for the tenant to buy it at the end of their lease is $110,000. It was built in 2007, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,100 square feet. The monthly rent on this house with its current lease, $850 a month. The net income at the end of the year after all your major expenses, property management, insurance, taxes, and sometimes an HOA, most of the time not. The net income is just under $7,000 a year for a monthly cash flow of about $581 per month. Next house, we go up in price a little bit, $86,000 to the investor. A lot of house for the money. We're talking about a 2,600 square foot 4-bedroom house that was built in 2004. Option price for the tenant, $150,000. Monthly rent on this one's $1,100 a month, and our annual income is just over about 11% of our purchase price. So we're getting just north of about 11% return on our purchase price or our capital outlay. Monthly cash flow, $841 per month. Finally, one of our higher end homes at $110,000. And if you can afford to buy a $110,000 house, you're going to see proportionately a higher ROI on your money because these houses will go up proportionally higher than the lower end houses will. So the $110,000 house, option price $160,000. It was built in 2002, 5-bedroom, 2.5-bath, 2,600 square feet. A lot of house for the money at $110,000, and the monthly rent on this one $1,400 per month for net income per year of about $12,000, a little over $1,000 per month. So that concludes what I wanted to share with you in Atlanta. It was a very quick overview. If you are interested in learning more about how we are buying the properties, what we're doing with property management, how these homes maybe fit in your portfolio as a complement to your real estate holdings, then again, I want to invite you to join us for a free strategy session. A strategy session, again, it's just an intimate conversation that we're going to have one-on-one. It'll either be with me personally or with one of our professional advisors. We're going to talk about your real estate preferences, your requirements, your long-term goals, and we're going to see if maybe one of these houses or multiple houses will fit as potential investment holdings for you. So if you want to take the next non-committal step, just have a conversation, go ahead and register below. You'll be contacted within 24 hours so that we can set up a time to chat, see if we can help you out. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the overview, and I look forward to talking to you soon.